In this presentation, I'll introduce the concept of high performance and how achieving and maintaining it through developing a few habits and practices can lead to personal and professional success consistently over your lifetime. Think of a prominent business mogul or academic genius, entertainer, well-known athletes. To get and maintain their elite status, there are specific things that they do. Sustaining that success takes more than talent, abilities, and strengths. It's likely a specific approach that they've adapted. Now, I'm not saying that all highly effective people have been using high performance coaching, but some very well-known athletes and entertainers and mega wealthy people have been coached in this framework. So what I'm saying is that to get the more that you want in life, you're going to need an edge. And for many of the world's most successful people, that edge is high performance coaching. Now, my name is Diane Thomas, and I'm a mentor with SCORE Chicago on the topic of social profit, AKA nonprofit startups and fundraisings. I am also Chief Trainer Coaching Consultant at Lancashire Enterprises LLC, where I help new, small, and growing nonprofits with resource development and fundraising. In addition, I am certified in high performance coaching, where I help individuals adapt specific habits and practices that will help them build lives of full engagement, joy, and confidence. The concept of high performance was created about 15 years ago or so by Brendon Burchard, who set out to, through his High Performance Institute, answer two questions. One, why is it that some individuals and teams succeed? Oh, stop. More quickly than others, and they sustain that success over the long term. And two, of those who pull it off, why are some miserable and others are happy on their journey? His High Performance Institute conducted exhaustive research to answer those questions. They administered global surveys and structured one-on-one interviews. They ran a bunch of data analytics, over about 1 million high performance indicator assessment data points, and studied over 300,000 organizational employees and their partner organizations. They compared that data to academic literature reviews. They had coaching insights from over 3,000 high performance coaching sessions and had empirical results from actual training interventions. And they then combined all of that into 100 different performance variables. All this research revealed that high performance is not strongly correlated with age, gender, nationality, intelligence, personality, strengths, creativity, empathy, years of experience, or compensation, which are generally some of the things that you would think would be a part of that. It doesn't mean that these things weren't important. It just didn't mean that these things, and that it didn't mean that they obviously didn't affect people's lives on some level. Were responsible for their success. It just meant that these things weren't as strongly correlated with long-term success as other things. This was like the big picture of what they found, but of course, they had to define it and go deeper, and they basically found that high performance can be defined this way. It is about succeeding beyond standard norms. So first you have to know where you are so that it would mean succeed beyond where you're at now. Consistently over the long term means that high performers were very consistent in their behaviors and their habits over the long term. And while they were succeeding, they maintained well-being and positive relationships. So if you're somebody who thinks I have to succeed and compromise my health and my relationships, that's just not true. And here's what they basically said high performance felt like. This is what high performers reported. They said high performers feel like they are fully engaged at what they're doing. They have a lot of joy and they bring a lot of joy in what they're doing, and they have confidence. And all that really comes from giving their absolute best. And that comes from answering the question, how do I rise to meet what's required in this situation? And I know you know this. When you feel like you're giving your absolute best, I bet you feel like you're engaged in the moment, like you are having fun and you're fully confident about who you are. So you may be thinking, how do I get that? How do I get more engaged? How do I feel more joyful, more confident? What do the world's highest performing, most successful, most fulfilled people do differently? And how can I do that too? Clearly, not a day goes by where you are not seeing somebody on Instagram or Facebook or at your workplace or out in your neighborhood who seemingly might have it easier. They might have more wealth, a better car, a better career. You might know that they've achieved things a little beyond where you're at. That's not saying anything negative. It's just that there's a lot of different levels of people in terms of their achievements, accomplishments, wealth, and influence. And we're always in that mix. Out of 7 billion people, we're all struggling to get ahead. But what is it that those who are at the top levels, like the top 15%, are doing differently? It's probably not necessarily always where they're from or how lucky they are. Maybe they have some different approaches to their life and career that generated a different quality of experience or a higher level of wealth, influence, and happiness. But before we look at those approaches, let's talk about what's not working. I know what they're not doing is certainly following the same old advice because you've already probably heard some of that old advice, right? Hey, just get started, on your dream, just work hard. Hey, be passionate, focus on your strengths, practice a lot, be grateful, stick to it. This is all good advice, right? But sometimes what leads to initial success is not sufficient for the long-term success because you know what? Most people already did start and they do work hard and they are passionate and they do care about what they're good at and they stick in that rut and they practice, but they don't win championships. They're grateful, but they might not be as abundant or wealthy as they want. They stuck to it, and sometimes they stuck to it for years at the cost of their own dreams, their own real desires, and often their own health. So it's not that this is bad advice or that this is good advice. It's just the advice gets a lot of people to level one success, but you want more than that. You're probably already tried a lot of these things already. I know a lot of people do work hard and they are passionate, but they're broke. I know a lot of people who know that they're what their strengths are, but they're in a rut because they're doing something that, yeah, maybe, they were good at, um, or they fell into, but it's really not challenging them and it's not moving them to move to the next level. Um, they kind of just fell into it. All right. So I know a lot of people who are truly soulfully, deeply grateful for life, but their family deserves and needs more. So sometimes this advice isn't sufficient. And so you have to ask then, well, how do you reach the next level and then beyond that? And how do you reach that next level of abundance and success while avoiding burnout and false obligations? So many people fear going for the next level because they think, well, I can barely handle this one, I'll burn out. Or I don't go to the next level because if I go to the next level, then I'm going to have to do all these other things and I'm going to owe all this to these other people. Look, succeeding at the next level is not easy. You already know that. Otherwise, you'd be at the highest level that you could be at. But you're striving, you're working hard, just like we all are. And we realized that there are really three huge, awful, debilitating problems that people face. It's why it's not easy to get ahead. It's why, you know, we're looking at things like fear. We want to put ourselves out there more. We want to take that risk. We want to try that business opportunity. We want to hire a team. We want to go for it, in some way, shape, or form. We want to seek investment. We want to get support. But putting ourselves out there and showing up consistently as our own courageous self, we know that's not always easy because sometimes we have stories in our head that don't support us. Sometimes we have some things that happened to us in the past that prevent us from really going really hard at it today. Sometimes in facing the unknown, we fall to the back of our heels and we don't push as hard as we know we should or could, as much as our family and team really needs us to, because we're worried about what's going to happen if we go for it and we fail, or we lose a reputation, or we can't handle the struggle, or we go through all the effort and it doesn't turn out well. These are real concerns that people face on a daily basis. I know that it's scary. It's scary when your back is against the wall, when you don't have the finances you need. I know it's scary when you have a lot of obligations and you feel stressed and overwhelmed. I know it's scary when you wake up to face a day and you think, oh my gosh, I got to do this again now. I know it's scary when you don't know how things are going to turn out, but you've invested so much time and energy and effort into this. I know it's scary when you might not have the support of your spouse or, some people in your neighborhood, your family, people at work. Fear is a real thing, and we've got to deal with that on the hourly, weekly, daily basis, no doubt. High performers have figured out how to deal with that. It's a big issue. And one of the things I focus on as a coach is making sure that people deal with this and they do so in a conscious way. They know where it's stopping them and that they face it as they best they can in their best self. I focus on making sure that they show up more consistently as their most courageous self. And I know that that's something you're working towards doing. So I celebrate you for being here today, for building your success quotient from the inside out by attending this presentation and the SCBAC Masters Series. We know another huge, awful, debilitating problem with people is fatigue. A lot of people burn out on their way towards climbing that mountain. They work super hard and they get a lot of momentum and they make it about halfway up the mountain and then they're done. They're overwhelmed, they're stressed, so they get irritable with their family. They stop feeling like they can make it through the day. They don't feel like they have the mental alertness or mental focus or literally the physical energy. But sometimes fatigue isn't that you didn't sleep enough the night before, even though a lot of people don't take care of their physical body. High performance definitely demands a lot of energy, but a lot of people are not just physically fatigued because they don't work out, or maybe they don't have the right nourishment, or they don't sleep, or maybe their kids are loud. A lot of people are emotionally fatigued. They are drained and they have so much stress. It's so long, or sometimes they don't have the momentum they want. And we know that's specifically true right now as we are continuing to deal with the racial reckoning, as we're continuing to deal with coming out of this pandemic. They have a lot of what they wanted, but it brought a lot more overwhelm, and they're juggling more than they thought. They're fatigued and they don't know how to handle it. Another huge debilitating, awful problem is frustration. Well, you had this one of frustration really where maybe you feel like you've been beating your head against the wall this year, first in disbelief about how the pandemic had shut down an entire country and threatened and perhaps even take the lives of your loved ones. Now, as you're cautiously re-emerging, you don't know what you can realistically expect and accept as the new normal. You're not experiencing momentum towards your goals that you deserve. And you're doing a lot of things, but they're not paying off right. And it's making you restless. It's making you question where you are. It's making you frustrated with other people around you. So you're hurting your relationships. We have to talk about fear. We have to talk about fatigue and frustration. I talk about a lot of this as a certified high performance coach. I deal with these issues on a day-to-day basis with real people. So eliminating what isn't working and taking fear, fatigue, and frustration into account, the more complete question to ask then is, how do the world's most successful people overcome that fear, fatigue, frustration, and then implement the right strategies and habits to dramatically advance their lives and careers? How do they do all that? Well, it's kind of like this. There is a way for you to go to the next level of abundance and success and joy and health without freaking yourself out, stressing yourself out, or experiencing overwhelm. It's really about mastering what we call high performance practices or habits. But bringing credibility to high performance approach rested on being able to explicitly scientifically qualify whether or not success markers could actually be witnessed. So researchers at the High Performance Institute asked, are these habits deliberate? Meaning, are people who are successful doing these habits on purpose? Can we observe it? Are the habits malleable? Meaning, can they change? Can people improve upon them? Can you train these habits? Are these habits effective across all domains? And out of over 100 different performance variables, they identified 6 habits that mattered the most to the long-term success. These were commonly called high performance habits. And yes, they are effective. They are measurable. They are able to be trained, and they can be improved upon. These habits fall into 2 categories. The researchers found that in a person's personal life, they had to consistently seek clarity about who they are and what they wanted to achieve. They had to generate the energy sufficient to succeed. They had to raise necessity, which is a way of saying that they had to make sure that they were consistently raising the bar on their own motivation. They had to know their why and really go after it. They had to make success necessary. In their social lives, they were being very productive in their careers, their projects or fields that mattered the most to them. They did develop influence with other people around them, and they had to demonstrate courage. Now, those 100 performance variables further reveal that these high performers did significant internal work to form these habits. They sought breakthroughs, training, coaching in 6 critical areas, what we call the high performance pillars. And so they had to master these areas. How do you get from where you are to where you want to go? By mastering these pillars of high performance. The number 1 is psychology. That's your mindset, your behavior. It's your thoughts, your feelings, actions, and why you do those things. It's physiology. It's about making sure that you have the energy, physical, and taking care of your physical body and health so that you can perform at your top levels. It's about being productive and mastering the area of productivity. It's about mastering the area of people. So developing the people skills that you need in order to get people to believe in you, to buy from you, to support you, to invest in you. It's about mastering your purpose, understanding what really brings you alive and keeps you on track. And it's about showing up in full presence every single day as your best self. Now, this presentation was short, but I bet you've seen enough to know that these are important areas. I mean, how important are these 6 areas of your life that we just covered? They're everything, right? The reason people become the most successful people in the world is because they not only focus on these areas, but they do diligent work. They invest in themselves. They ask tough questions. They have conversations with a third party so they can think through them, talk it out, figure it out, get challenged, be ahead, be held accountable. And if you can do that, you're on the path. So what's your next step in improving? Let's find out together. Just go fill out your free strategy session questionnaire at the website you see on your screen. Listen, just filling out the questionnaire is going to make you think about really amazing things about your life. Questionnaire itself, think of it like extended homework where you're going to have more breakthroughs. You can turn it into me and then schedule your time to work through these areas and identify specifically where you need to focus over the coming weeks. Let's create your game plan. If I've added value to you already, now let's personalize it.